Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I'm Todd Rodden. I'm a certified business and executive coach based in the Dayton, Ohio area, and I own Aspire Action Coach. And today we're honored to have Greg Blatt here with us. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the Business Spotlight. We encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can also receive future interviews like we have here today with Greg. So again, Greg Blatt, honored to have him join us here today. Greg is the CEO of the Blatt Group, which is powered by Keller Williams and KW Commercial, really a leader, renowned leader in this region from a real estate perspective, both on the residential and commercial side. He's also the recent past president of the Dayton Realtors Association, which is one of the largest trade associations in the region as well. I'm sure he'll talk about that. So we're excited to have Greg here with us, tell his story as an entrepreneur and leader in the region. So Greg, maybe take a minute, talk a little bit about your real estate business, the Blatt Group, and how you got started in real estate. Why real estate?
Well, real estate. Well, thanks, Todd. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be here today, and hopefully this little time together will encourage some of your clients out there as well, and help them in their business. But anyway, so how did I get started in real estate? Well, like many people, I started many years ago. I've been in the business now for 43 years. It seems like yesterday when I started. I was 22 years old when I started, and I really started out working as an employee for Anheuser-Busch out of college. And I realized very quickly that as an employee, I was limited in where I could go and what I could accomplish. And I knew I wanted more than just, what that environment would bring to me. So I started to look at other avenues, and real estate had always been an interest of mine. So I got my real estate license and got into the business full time in 1980. So it's been quite a few years, and it's been a long journey. We started out with the residential side as a sales associate in 1990. I opened up my first brokerage, and since then we've had 3 other brokerages that we've operated, and now we have a pretty sizable residential team and also a commercial team.
Hey, thank you for that background. Great history there. Maybe talk through your role as CEO. What's that mean? Your day in the life, and maybe describe how the construct of your team. What's your team look like?
Sure. So we have 4 people on our residential side. Excuse me, 4 people on our commercial side, and we have 3 people on our residential side of the team. My role right now is really the chief visionary officer, if you will. It's my job to cast the vision, create the culture for the team. We operate with very defined values, and our tagline is changing lives for the better. Our mission, though, is really not focused on transactions, but focused on building strong relationships and bringing a high level of customer service. So ultimately, our goal is to create lives worth living, businesses worth owning, experiences worth experiencing, and legacies worth leaving.
I love that, the chief visionary officer. So that, yeah. Right, that's inspirational. So talk through maybe you've got both residential and commercial. You have certain target customers. How if somebody's listening to this, how would they know, hey, you would be somebody who could be best serve them?
Yeah, well, I'll talk on the residential side. I've been very fortunate. My son joined me in the business about 7 years ago, and so he heads up our residential side of the business. Obviously, people have to have a place to live. It's one of the basic necessities of life, right? Food, shelter, and clothing. So we cover the shelter side of things. We get involved with single family homes. We even help people on the small investment side when you get into doubles and triples and quads as far as an investment goes. On the commercial side, obviously, we cover being a small tertiary market. Dayton, Ohio is not one of the major cities, but we cover several of the product types within the commercial space. So we have specialists in the retail side. We do both landlord rep and tenant rep. We work a little bit in the office side, although office is kind of challenging these days after COVID. So again, the landlord side and the tenant side, as well as the brokerage side on the listing and sell side. I've got a team member that is very well versed, along with myself, on the multifamily and investment side. And we do a lot of industrial, light industrial and medium-sized industrial. I'm talking about manufacturing space, flex space, which is office and warehouse type space, logistics. We get into those spaces. And then I personally am very involved in land development. So we have several developments going both on the residential side for housing and also on the industrial side for large businesses. So we cover a wide gambit. So our goal is really to have a team of specialists within those various areas so that we can bring the highest level of service to the client. There's an old saying: you can be a jack of all trades and a master of none. For good or bad, I've been around long enough now. I've got some experience in all those areas, but I've got team members that specialize specifically in retail, in the multifamily, in the office space, and we handle both brokerage and landlord tenant representation.
Just a broad suite of services, really touching all areas of real estate. So impressive. What's the one thing you wish more people knew about your business?
Boy, that's a great question. I think people look at realtors as a commodity, and they think that all realtors are the same. When you carry that R behind your name, they think you do one thing. You put a sign in the yard, you put it on the internet or the mobile listing service, whether it's residential or commercial, and you sit and wait for a buyer to show up, and you go collect a big commission check and play golf. It doesn't really work that way.
You wish, right?
Yeah, I wish it did. We're kind of analogous to the duck on water, right? You see the duck sitting on top of the water, is just kind of cruising along real smooth and everything, but underneath the legs are just going like crazy. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And one of the things that we really focus in on is trying to create a smooth and hassle-free transaction for our clients. We look at things from a consultative approach. We don't take a sales approach. Many agents out there are focused on one thing. That's get the transaction, the listing done, get the transaction done, get to the closing table, and move on to the next person. We really spend the time doing a thorough needs analysis. We want to understand what the client's objectives are. We want to make sure that we're addressing the issues and concerns that they have before we give any advice. So we ask a lot of questions, and in asking those questions, we learn a lot about what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's on the residential side or the commercial side. And it's important in both, probably as much in the residential side as it is on the commercial side. And so what differentiates us is we ask really good questions. We try to ascertain what the objectives are that the client's trying to achieve, and then we come up with creative solutions to address those needs. And whether that's on a land development project, whether it's getting a home sold, and whether it's meeting their objective for investments, we just spend the time to listen. So I think being very good listeners before being an answer person is really important. I think that's one thing that really separates us from a lot of agents out there.
Well, a great description of what separates you from the other agents out there in the marketplace, right? It's so easy just to jump into that sales mode, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people want to, a lot of people ask one question, will you list my property? Oh yeah, I'm going to get your house sold, or I'm going to get your property sold, and we're going to do this, we're going to do this. They spend all their time telling somebody what they think they want to hear, and they never ask the one question: what's important to you? What's causing you to want to make the move? What's causing you to want to sell? What's causing you to want to buy at this point in time? And we go deep in that. I mean, we might go 4, 5, 6 levels deep before we really understand the true motivation. And I'll tell you this, Todd, I said, we find that most of the time there's some value that the person has that's driving that motivation. It's not just the transaction. There's something much, much deeper. And if we can get down to the value of what's driving their motivation, we're much better able to give them some solutions that'll help them.
Hey, thanks for sharing that. So now
Yeah.
you talked about, hey, that's the what you think is a differentiator for you. It helps make you unique, but getting that message out into the marketplace is another whole line of work, which is really tied to
Right.
marketing. So walk us through what marketing strategies do you rely on? What seems to work best for you, and how do you go about marketing? Do you set a set budget and dedicate to it, or is it more when you see an opportunity you go after it?
That's a great question. For years and years and years, I always thought marketing was the answer. And what I found out over a lot of years being in this business, marketing tends to be noise. I hate to say it that way, but it really does. And you get lost. You get email blast. You get this message from this person or this message from here, radio ads, TV ads, billboard ads, and all that. At the end of the day, we came to the conclusion that we're in a very unique business, and that business is the people business. And a lot of people today, a lot of agents today, we're so focused on technology. We want to text somebody. We want to send them something. When I first got in the business, my broker said, there's the telephone. Here's the crisscross directory. Open it up and start calling people. And I did. And I started having one-on-one conversations over the telephone. It was tough. It was hard. And you got a lot of rejection. You got a lot of no's. But over time, you started to build a base of business, a clientele. And when you do the job well for them, then they want to refer you to other people. So our marketing is really not marketing per se. We are prospecting based, I guess is what I would say. When I say prospecting based, we're in the people business. We're out there networking and developing relationships. And through those relationships, again, we ask questions to find out who has a need. And then we provide solutions once we understand those needs. I would say probably 90% of our business is referral based. And the reason it's referral based is because we spend a lot of time in networking groups. We're building relationships. We're not looking for a specific single transaction from any one person. We're looking to be a service. We come in contribution. We bring value to people long before we ever is even considered to do a transaction with them. And I think this. I mean, we do a program called the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. And it's a mastermind group of probably because of the weather, it's been a little light, but it's usually, somewhere between 60 and 100 people that show up once a month. And we mastermind about how to build financial freedom. In other words, how are we going to build enough cash flow to allow you to live life on your own terms? And we do that without charge. We don't charge anybody for that. It's part of our giving back. And we take the same approach with our business is we want to build those relationships. And if we can bring value without the expectation that something's going to come back in return, I think it's called the law of reciprocity. If you've ever read John Maxwell's books,
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the more you give away, it seems to come back tenfold. And so we always try to come in contribution. We try to bring value, and we try to help people. And as a result, then those people choose to do business with us. So our marketing is much, much different. We're more relationship based, not marketing based, if that makes sense.
No, makes clear sense. Especially you've been able to build that up over time, your 40+ year journey. So it kind of leads into another thought. So on that journey you've had, has there been a few twists in the road, a few hills and valleys that you've made through? So if you look back, what's been the single biggest roadblock you had to overcome your journey as a business owner, business leader, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. No, our business has just run smooth forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
There's never been any times of turmoil in the real estate business.
Right. Never. No, I tell you, and I've had several business coaches over the years, and you never learn anything from your successes. I shouldn't say that. You learn from them, but you don't learn as much. You learn from your failures, right? And so I was having a conversation with Gary Keller, who's the CEO of Keller Williams, and he said, Greg, the difference between you and me is, he says, I failed more than you have. And I think that's very true. So, all of the failures, the things that we've done over the years that just didn't work have been our major learning experiences. Some of the challenges that I've had, I've owned 4 real estate companies, and I've recruited probably 700 or 800 agents over the years. But, even applying it to the Blatt Group now on our team, is finding the right talent is always a challenge. And, it's really easy to hire somebody and say, here's your role, here's your job, go do this, go do that. But if their values aren't aligned with your values, and they don't have the same desire to be helpful. I'll give you a really, I give you a good example. My son came to me 7 years ago. He was in the fire service. And because of that role, he had become very cynical because he saw the worst of society. He was taking people overdosing on drugs to the hospital 3 and 4 and 5 times a day. And he's becoming very, very cynical about society. And he came to me one day and he said, Dad, he said, I want to make a change. He said, I want to get into the real estate business. And I said, I said, I understand. I said, but I'm not going to let you do that. Now that's kind of tough for a father to tell your son no, right? But I told him no because I needed to get his attention, and he needed to make some changes personally with his own mindset. It's not that he was a bad person. He was filled with so much negativity from the experiences of being in the fire service. He was carrying that into his own personal life and everybody else. And I said, here's the problem. I said, with the attitude that you have right now, you're never going to be successful in real estate because you don't like people right now. And we're in the people business, right? You have to truly like other people and want to serve and help other people. And know deep down that's where you are, but you're not there right now. So I told him no. And he wouldn't talk to me for 2 months. And a couple of months later, I called him and I said, let's go have breakfast. So the long story short of that is we had to work on his attitude. We had to change his mindset and the way he viewed the world to the point where he actually got over being cynical and he started seeing the positives in life again. And he started to care about people again. He always had that. He was raised that way. But he overcame it. So when you ask about what are the challenges in business, I think the biggest challenge is finding talent, making sure that they're in alignment with your goals and your values more than anything, making sure they're a fit for your culture, and they're going to treat people the same way that you want to treat people and that you want to be treated. And so it's a process, and you have to work your way out. So I've made some bad hires over the years, and I realized that the cost of a bad hire is pretty expensive. The cost of a good hire is very, very rewarding. So there's my biggest challenge, is finding the right talent. It's not so much to get people on the bus, but it's getting people in the right seats when they get on that bus, if that makes sense.
Okay. Great example with Tyler, your son there, and again, you've brought on many agents and employees over the years, and you mentioned a few that didn't work out so well. So now, when you're interviewing somebody new or looking for somebody new who's not your son, right, who you know so
Right.
well, so
Yeah.
you don't know them as well, how do you do that values check? How do you make that determination? Hey, they're going to be a good fit for us, or maybe not so much.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a whole process we take them through. We have a behavioral assessment that we run them through. It's kind of a unique situation. You've probably heard of the DISC assessment, and there's others out there. There's the AVA, the DISC, and so forth. We have one called the KPA, which digs a little bit deeper than just the personality styles. And when you do this as a business owner, it's important to do that. There's 2 reasons. One, you want to be sure that you're identifying that person's strengths. And you also want to identify their weaknesses. And we all have strengths and weaknesses, but you want to focus in and accentuate their strengths. You want to figure out where they're strong at. And you never want to hire somebody like yourself. You want to hire somebody that complements you. So, I'm a visionary. I'm a high D personality. I'm a doer, very action oriented. But I fail. I fail when it comes to the minutia. And so I need to find somebody that is really good at the details, that can take you from step A to step B to step C to step Z, and has the tenacity to stay with that, the perseverance to stay with that all the way through. Because I'm off to 4 other things while they're doing all that. If it were up to me to do the details, I would fail miserably, right? So understanding the behavioral styles and the personality styles is important. Then the cultural side of it, when you go through that process, you want to see them in action. Okay, so it's more than what you do in an interview. Obviously, when you're doing interviews and you're asking questions, you ask them, give me a time when you were very successful. Give me an example of a time when you were a failure. What did you learn from that experience? How did you overcome that? Those are good things. But oftentimes I'll take somebody out with me and I'll see, or I'll put them in a situation to see how they respond and how they react. And sometimes you can learn a whole lot more by watching somebody in a specific situation than you can just sitting in a conference room asking questions. So we call it career visioning. It's a process. We're slow to hire, but we're quick to release people when they're not a fit. And the reason we do that, because one of our values is it has to be a win-win or no deal. Okay. It has to be good for us, but it also has to be good for that person. And I'll give you a real quick short story. When I was in Chicago working on an office up there, we had 50 agents, and I took that office from 50 agents to 12. And the reason I did that is because 38 of those agents, they just weren't cut out to be in the real estate business. And so we spent 6 to 8 months consulting with those people to find out what their motivations were, what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were. And we realized they weren't fit to be in this business. And so I consulted them into other lines of work. And they weren't making any money in real estate. They weren't happy. But when they realized this wasn't the right opportunity for them, and we guided them somewhere else, they got a job. Now they're able to support their families. People came back as thank you for doing that, because now I'm able to support my family. So getting the right people on the bus, but getting the right people in the right seats on the bus is really, really important.
Well, and for those listeners today, if you're thinking about adding to your team or making changes to your team, I encourage you to rewind this back about 4 minutes and listen to what Greg just shared again. Just so many great takeaways there to consider. One, using some type of behavioral assessment. So you've got something kind of quantitative to go off of around their strengths and weaknesses. See them in action. Making sure you understand how they fit. Make sure they complement your skills. Maybe fill some of your gaps as well. Those are just a few of the great points you just shared there. So outstanding feedback around thoughts around your team. So what's next? You talked about you're the visionary officer. Where do you see the business going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Industry-wise, it's going to be a little bit of a rocky road nationwide. Locally, I think we're poised very, very well. Jobs Ohio's done a great job bringing jobs to Ohio. And I would encourage business owners to tap into that information and see where the opportunities really lie, because I'd say for the first time in my lifetime, and I'm a lifetime resident of Dayton, the Dayton area, I would say for the first time in my lifetime, we're in a position now to where people are moving to Ohio for high-paying jobs. Our graduates from colleges are staying here for high-paying jobs. They no longer have to leave the state to get a good job with the degree that they've got. So we've got a lot of opportunity on the horizon. So where are we going? I mean, we're very focused. My big mission right now is, while I've got my team handling the client services, I'm out looking for those bigger opportunities. We do a lot of land development. We do land development both in the industrial sector and residential homes sector. And so I'm looking to create opportunities for not just myself and my team, but for other people that are looking to build that financial freedom. You know, a mentor of mine years ago told me that, you know, the purpose of life is to truly live before you die. The purpose of business is to fund that truly perfect life. Business is just a tool. It's not the end all be all. And I think that the challenge we have is most of us think business is our identity and it's what we're meant to do, right? But in reality, we get up every morning and we find ourselves in a cycle, right? We get up, we go to work, we come home, we have dinner, we watch a little bit of TV, we go to bed, we get up, we go to work, we repeat the cycle over and over again. So what happens is we end up living to work. And we don't take the time to think about the other things that are really, really important in life, whether it be our relationships with our family or our kids or our grandkids or whatever. Taking time to travel, taking time to smell the roses. So you've got to build that into your schedules and make that happen. So using business as a tool to fund that perfect life, it starts with defining what that perfect life looks like, right? And this is, I think, one of the things that we talk about with our clients. You know, what are your objectives? Why is that important? If you had that, how does it change your life? How does that change your lifestyle? How does that change your trajectory and where you're going? Those are all good questions to ask, but most people don't, they never think about that. And they never think about that in their own personal lives. So where are we going? That's why we're doing Cash Flow Breakfast Club, because we want to challenge people to think about those things, about what's important for them so that they can work to live and not live to work.
Hey, great. And I was going to mention to folks, you brought up the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. So if someone's viewing this and they're in the Dayton area, I encourage them to go out and try to attend. I've attended myself, just tremendous value, great education, insights, great connections, learning from other investors to really kind of think about that and how you can use business and your investments to really fuel that perfect life
Right.
for you.
Yeah, there's nothing for sale there. It's just a bunch of people with the same goal coming together and sharing ideas and best practices and failures and all those things. They're learning from each other.
So you mentioned that. Is there any other way in which folks can follow or keep up to date with you or the Blatt Group?
Well, you know, obviously we have a Facebook page, so you can find us on Facebook, the Blatt Group, Keller Williams. Obviously, I have a LinkedIn. It's real simple. It's G Blatt, GBLATT. But really, you know, if anybody's interested, I think you've got our phone numbers. You can get those out or whatever. But you know, we'd love to just sit down and have a one-to-one. I mean, I'm really good face to face. I'm not big on technology.
And you know, I also mentioned the folks, you can check out their website, which is DaytonRealtyPro.com. And also check out Greg's group there as well. So Greg, as we wrap up here, and I think you might have already hit on this, but what's most inspiring to you today?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, what inspires me is seeing other people succeed. When the light bulb goes off, you know, I love to teach, and I teach a lot because I like to give back and I like to see other people grow and in their personal journeys and that type of thing. So that's inspiring to me when I see people embracing their goals and they're purposeful about that. And, you know, when that light bulb goes off and they have those aha moments, and that's exciting and that's fun. Aside for that, it's really just my personal faith. Yeah.
Well, again, thanks for sharing that and the rest of your story, your journey, your lessons learned as an entrepreneur and CEO. So thanks for sharing that time today. And then to
My
our
pleasure.
viewers, our viewers, we're thankful to have you here today. And again, encourage you, if you haven't had a chance, please go ahead and subscribe to the Business Spotlight channel so you'll receive more messages of inspiration and insights like Greg shared with us here today. So thank you all. And thanks again, Greg. And I'll have a terrific day.
Great. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Good to be with you.